Welcome back, my friend. Tonight I want to talk to you about something so ordinary that almost nobody notices it. And yet, it is the single most powerful tool you carry. It is the conversation you have with yourself. Not the words you say to other people. The words you say inside, when no one else is listening. Most of us think this inner talk is just background noise. Random, meaningless, the mental equivalent of static. But it isn't static at all. It is the most direct expression of who you believe yourself to be. And because of that, it is quietly building the world you're going to walk into tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Here is the idea I want to plant with you tonight. You don't need months. You don't need years. 3 days of deliberately chosen inner conversation is enough to start bending your circumstances towards something new. Not because 3 is a magic number, but because 3 days is long enough to break a habit of thought and replace it with a new one, if you are honest and consistent about it. Let's start with what this inner conversation actually is. It's not the stray thoughts that drift through your mind while you'd start making coffee or scrolling your phone. That's just mental drift, unowned, undirected, going nowhere in particular. The inner conversation I mean is different. It's the dialogue you choose on purpose. It's what you say to yourself about who you are, what you have, and what's coming. And it should already sound like the person who has what they want, not the person who is still waiting for it. Think about how differently a person speaks to themselves when they already feel secure, versus when they feel afraid. The secure person's inner voice is calm, certain, almost bored by the outcome, because they already expect it. The fearful person's inner voice is anxious, bargaining, rehearsing worst cases. Same situation, 2 completely different inner scripts, and 2 completely different results tend to follow. That's not a coincidence. That's cause and effect, just operating somewhere most people never think to look, inside their own head. So here's the practice. For the next 3 days, I want you to catch yourself speaking as the person who still lacks what they want, and gently, immediately, swap it out. Don't argue with the old thought. Don't fight it. Just replace it. The way you'd change a radio station instead of trying to reason with the song you don't like. Start the moment you wake up. Before your feet hit the floor. Before you check your phone. Spend 60 seconds talking to yourself the way the fulfilled version of you would talk. If it's money you're after, don't recite a wish. Describe your life the way someone who already has enough would describe theirs. I always seem to have exactly what I need. Money moves toward me without a fight. If it's health, describe your energy, your strength, the way your body simply works the way it's supposed to. If it's love, describe the warmth of being cherished, not the hope of being cherished someday. The tone matters as much as the words. This has to feel natural, almost casual, like you're just stating the obvious, not performing an affirmation you don't believe. Force never works here. If a sentence feels hollow when you say it, soften it until it feels true enough to rest in. I'm becoming the kind of person money finds easy to reach. Often lands better than a grand declaration that your logical mind immediately rejects. Carry that same tone through your day. This is where most people quietly give up without realizing it. Someone mentions a shortage, and their inner voice slides right back into scarcity. Someone complains about their health, and their inner monologue starts rehearsing symptoms. None of that is an accident either. It's just the old script reasserting itself because nobody was guarding the door. Your job for these 3 days is to guard that door. When the world hands you a reason to doubt, your inner conversation doesn't have to accept the invitation. And when you slip, because you will slip, everyone does, don't punish yourself for it. Self-criticism is just another form of the old conversation wearing a disguise. The moment you notice you've drifted, simply come back. That's not where I live anymore, is often enough. Return to the tone of the fulfilled state and keep walking. What matters isn't a flawless 3 days. What matters is how quickly and how often you return. Nighttime deserves special attention. The last few minutes before sleep are when your guard is lowest and your mind is most impressionable. Whatever you're dwelling on in that drowsy state tends to sink in deeper and prolonged echo longer than anything you think during a busy afternoon. So before you drift off, don't let your mind wander wherever it wants. Give it something to hold on to. Pick one short phrase that captures your fulfilled state, something simple enough to repeat like a lullaby. Thank you. It's already mine. I sleep easy because everything is working out. Let that phrase and the feeling behind it be the last thing running through your mind as you fall asleep. Now your outer speech has to fall in line with this too, because the two aren't really separate. What you say out loud is just your inner conversation spilling into the open air. If someone asks how you're doing and your honest inner state is one of abundance, don't answer from old habit with, "Oh, just getting by." Let your outer words start to match the person you're becoming inside. This will feel strange at first, maybe even a little dishonest, because you're used to describing your circumstances rather than your chosen state. Push through that discomfort. It fades quickly once the new habit takes hold. One more thing worth understanding. This practice isn't really about getting a list of things. It's about becoming someone. There's a real difference between telling yourself, "I will succeed," and simply speaking, thinking, and carrying yourself as someone who already has. The first is a hope aimed at the future. The second is an identity lived in the present. And identity is what actually shapes behavior, decisions, and, eventually, circumstances. So rather than rehearsing what you want to have, rehearse who you want to be. Let your inner conversation describe a person, not a possession. If you want a way to check whether you're doing this right, use this test. Does it feel steady, even when the outside world hasn't caught up yet? The fulfilled inner conversation isn't loud or desperate. It's quiet, almost matter-of-fact. The way you talk about something you take completely for granted. If your inner voice is straining to convince you of something, that's a sign you're still performing hope, rather than living from conviction. Soften the words until the conviction feels real, even if it starts small. 3 days of this, really guarding your inner conversation morning, through the day, and into sleep, is enough to loosen an old pattern that might have been running unexamined for years. It won't feel like anything dramatic is happening at first. That's normal. The shift is happening in the part of you that decides how to interpret everything else. And that kind of shift shows up gradually in your choices, your posture, your responses to people, before it ever shows up as a headline event in your life. Now let me take you a little further, because there's a longer arc to this that's worth understanding. Say you commit to holding a new inner state, not just for 3 days, but consistently, as your default. There's a rhythm to how that unfolds, roughly across about 3 days at a time, that's worth knowing so you don't lose heart partway through. In the first stretch, the new state is fragile. You believe it in flashes, and forget it in between. This is completely normal. You're not failing, you're just early. Your job here isn't to feel it perfectly. It's simply to keep returning to it more often than you drift from it. In the middle stretch, something shifts. The new state starts to feel less like something you're rehearsing and more like something you've just remembering. This is often the most uncomfortable phase, oddly enough, because old assumptions don't leave quietly. You might notice irritation, doubt flaring up harder than before, even circumstances that seem to be moving the wrong direction. This isn't proof that it isn't working. It's usually the opposite. It's the old pattern making its last stand before it loses its grip. Don't mistake friction for failure. By the final stretch, the new state stops requiring effort. You're no longer trying to believe it. You just do. The way you don't have to remind yourself of your own name. And this is usually when the outer world starts to visibly rearrange itself. Conversations shift, opportunities appear that weren't there before. People respond to you differently, not because they changed, but because you're no longer broadcasting the old signal for them to respond to. Here's the part most people miss. None of this requires forcing anything into place. Your job through this whole arc is remarkably narrow. You don't have to engineer the how. You don't have to figure out the mechanism by which your circumstances will change. You only have to hold the inner conversation steady and let the details work themselves out. The moment you start trying to micromanage the outcome, you tend to slip back into the anxious, grasping tone that belongs to the old state, not the new one. If you find your circumstances feel like they're falling apart rather than falling into place during this process, take a breath before you panic. Old arrangements often have to loosen before new ones can take their place. The same way a room usually looks messier partway through being rearranged before it looks better. That temporary disorder isn't a sign you're on the wrong track. It's often a sign the old structure is finally giving way. Detachment matters here too, and it's easy to misunderstand. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or stop wanting. It means you stop white-knuckling the outcome. You state your inner conversation, you live from it, and then you let go of clutching at proof. Anxiously checking for evidence every hour just reintroduces the very doubt you trait. Trying to dissolve. Assume it, live from it, and get on with your day. So here's what I'd leave you with tonight. You are, whether you've ever noticed it or not, in a running conversation with yourself every single day. That conversation has been quietly writing your life's script for as long as you can remember, mostly on autopilot. Nothing changes until someone takes the pen back. Give yourself 3 days of doing that on purpose, morning, through the day, into sleep, and watch how much of your world was actually waiting on you the whole time. The first tool is what I'll call quiet revision. Here's the problem it solves. All of us carry around moments from the past that still sting a little when we remember them. A conversation that went badly, a decision we regret, a moment where we didn't show up the way we wanted to. Most people think the past is fixed, finished, unchangeable. But the version of the past you carry isn't the event itself. It's your memory of it, replayed the same way every time, which means it's really just another habit of inner conversation, just aimed backward instead of forward. So instead of replaying that old memory exactly as it happened, take a few quiet minutes and run it differently in your mind. Not to lie to yourself about facts, but to change the meaning you're carrying forward. If you snapped at someone, replay the scene with yourself responding calmly instead. If you missed an opportunity, replay it with yourself noticing it in time. Make the new version vivid. See it, hear it, feel the relief of it landing the way you wished it had. Do this a few times and something interesting happens. The sting fades. The old version stops being the one your mind reaches for automatically. You've essentially retired an old script and replaced it with one that doesn't work against you anymore. This matters more than it might sound like at first, because a mind full of unrevised regret keeps feeding your inner conversation reasons to expect more of the same. Clear that backlog, even a little at a time, and your inner conversation has less static to fight through. The second tool is the lullaby method, and I mentioned a piece of this last time, but it deserves more attention. The few minutes before sleep are unusually receptive. Your critical, arguing mind has mostly clocked out for the night, but your imagination is still awake. Whatever you dwell on in that window tends to settle in deeper than anything you think about during a busy afternoon. Here's how to use it. Pick one short line, 4 to 8 words, that captures your fulfilled state in the present tense. Not a wish, not a hope. A simple statement, like something you'd say about a fact of your life. I always land on my feet. Good news finds me easily. My body works the way it should. Then, as you're settling into sleep, repeat that line slowly, quietly, almost like a lullaby you're humming to yourself. Don't strain to believe it hard. Just let the words roll gently, and let whatever warmth or relief they carry settle over you as you drift off. Do this consistently, night after night, and you're essentially handing your subconscious the same instruction over and over, right when it's most likely to take root. Most people go to sleep replaying their worries instead, which is really the same technique, just aimed at the wrong material. You're simply choosing what gets to run on repeat. The third tool is about building faith, because I think a lot of people here just assume it's true, and quietly think, sure, but I don't actually believe that. Fair enough. Conviction isn't something you can force by willpower alone. It has to be earned, a little at a time, through evidence you generate yourself. So start small. Pick something modest. Nothing life-changing. Just something specific and noticeable. A message from someone you haven't heard from in a while. A parking spot opening up right when you need one. Finding something small you'd misplaced. Imagine the moment clearly. What you'd see, what you'd feel. That little spark of, oh, there it is. Hold that image for a minute or two. Feel it as though it's already settled, and then let it go completely. Don't check for it obsessively. Just release it and go about your day. When it lands, and these small things tend to land more often than people expect once they start paying attention, don't wave it off as coincidence. Notice it. Let it count as evidence. Each small success is a brick in the foundation of a conviction that's actually yours, built from your own experience rather than borrowed from someone else's claims. Once that foundation holds a few small things reliably, it becomes much easier to trust it with something bigger, because now you're not hoping blindly. You're extending a pattern you've already watched work. One caution as you build this practice: don't turn any of these 3 tools into anxious homework. Revision isn't about combing through every regret you've ever had. The lullaby phrase isn't about repeating it 1,000 times out of fear it won't work otherwise. The small imaginal acts aren't about proving something to yourself on a deadline. All 3 work best when they're held lightly, done with the same calm, unhurried confidence you'd use for something you already know is going to be fine. That's really the thread running through everything we're walks. Across these 2 nights. Your inner conversation, revised memories, a phrase whispered before sleep. Small proofs gathered quietly. None of it is complicated, and none of it demands more from you than a little honesty and a little consistency. The world you're living in was largely assembled this way already, without your noticing. The only real shift is deciding to assemble it on purpose from here on. Try these 3 tools this week. Start with whichever one feels most natural to you, and let the others follow. Let's start with action, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They hear, assume the state of your wish fulfilled, and think it means sit still and wait for the universe to deliver something to their door. That's not quite it, and it's not quite the opposite either. Frantically chasing the outcome with everything you've got. Checking, forcing, pushing. Here's the difference. When you're genuinely living from a fulfilled state, action doesn't feel like effort anymore. It feels closer to instinct. You reply to the email you'd normally put off, not because you're anxiously trying to make something happen, but because it simply feels obvious to reply now. You strike up the conversation you'd normally avoid, not out of desperation, but because there's no longer a reason to hold back. None of this feels like work. It feels like the next natural step, the way you don't have to talk yourself into breathing. Compare that to action taken from lack, the kind driven by fear that if you don't push hard enough, right now, it'll slip away. That kind of action is exhausting, and worse, it tends to broadcast the very scarcity you're trying to escape. So the test isn't, am I taking action or not? It's, does this action feel calm and obvious? Or does it feel like I'm white-knuckling an outcome? If it's the second one, that's usually a sign your inner conversation has quietly slipped back into the old state, and the action needs to wait until you've returned to the new one. Now, let's talk about what happens on the outside while all this inner work is going on, because this is the part that tests people's patience the most. There's a rough arc, call it about 3 days, though it varies, that a genuinely new inner state tends to move through before it shows up clearly in your circumstances. Early on, almost nothing visible happens. This is the part where most people get discouraged and quit, because they expected results by now, and the world looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. But nothing visible happening doesn't mean nothing is happening. Think about anything that grows underground before it breaks the surface. The work is real. It's just not photographable yet. A little further in, you'll often notice things get slightly more uncomfortable before they get better. Old arrangements start to loosen, which can look and feel like things falling apart rather than falling into place. A relationship that was quietly stagnant might suddenly feel tense. A job that felt merely dull might suddenly feel unbearable. This isn't your plan going wrong. It's usually the opposite. It's the old structure finally losing its grip so a new one has room to form. The discomfort is a sign of movement, not failure. By the time you're further along, if you've stayed consistent, the new state stops feeling like something you've signed, maintaining, and starts feeling like something you simply are. And this is usually right around when the outside world starts visibly catching up. A conversation lands differently than it used to. An opportunity appears that wasn't there last week. Someone treats you in a way they never had before. None of that is random. It's just circumstance finally reflecting a state you've been quietly holding all along. Here's the part I really want you to sit with tonight. Your job through all of this is much smaller than it feels like it should be. You are not responsible for engineering the mechanism. You don't have to figure out how the conversation lands differently, or how the opportunity finds you, or how the relationship shifts. Trying to control the how is usually what drags people back into the old anxious state, because now they're managing outcomes instead of simply living from a feeling. Your actual job is narrow. Hold the inner conversation, act from it when action feels natural, and let go of clutching at the timeline. If you find yourself checking constantly for proof, scanning your bank balance 10 times a day, replaying a conversation looking for signs it worked, that's usually your grip tightening in exactly the place it needs to loosen. Detachment isn't indifference. You can care completely about the outcome and still refuse to spend your day gripping it. In fact, that loosened grip is often what allows things to move. Anxious checking just keeps rehearsing the old, lacking state you're trying to leave behind. So, here's where I'll leave the three of us. You, me, and this whole idea. None of what we've covered these past few nights is complicated. Speak to yourself, deliberately, as the person who already has what they want. Revise what's worth revising. Whisper one honest line to yourself before sleep. Gather small proof until belief feels earned rather than forced. Act only when it feels calm and obvious. And when the world seems to wobble before it steadies, remember that's usually the sign something real is underway, not the sign that it's failing. Do this consistently, and you'll find, often without being able to point to the exact moment, that the conversation you've been having with yourself has quietly become the conversation the whole world is now having with you. That's it for this series. I'll see you in the next one.